for what's in the oak. Black like charcoal. Black bamboo bully face smoke. Is this kaleidoscope? Tell them black is the code. We pro. This is a black code. We voting for PDP. Vote out PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. No. This is a black code. We black and we pro. We voting for PDP. Vote out PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning, Tobago. Good morning, everyone who is listening to me on the airways. Good morning to those who are viewing the studio from YouTube. Good morning to those who are viewing this presentation on Facebook. Good morning. You know, I keep forgetting that YouTube camera is there, you know. Oh my goodness. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is Dr. Faith B. Israel, and I am the deputy or one of the deputy political leaders of the Progressive Democratic Patriots. And we are here today to try to bring some sunshine to this gloomy morning. I am not sure what happened. I think Gonzalo forgot the date that he should have come. I think Gonzalo forgot the date that he should have come, because what is happening today in Tobago seems to be more treacherous than what happened over the weekend, because we were sitting waiting for this storm to happen and it did not happen. But we have to say thanks to the Most High God, because we are thankful for every single blessing. We are thankful for the rain. We're thankful for the sunshine. We're thankful for the protection of each and every one of us during this time. I am here, of course, because we are in the height of quote-unquote election season. We are now less than 2 weeks away from this glorious day, 2 weeks away from Liberation Day, 2 weeks away from Emancipation Day for Tobago. And the Progressive Democratic Patriots, as you know, we are sending 2 of our freedom fighters to Trinidad. We are asking you to help us send 2 of our freedom fighters to Trinidad. We are asking you to help us send Mr. Watson Solomon Duke and Mr. Shea Grace Burris to Trinidad, because we need freedom fighters to be in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago to speak on behalf of all of Tobago without being bridled, without having to say, okay, well, my big brother or my big sister say I can't talk about this, so I will not be talking about. No. We are sending 2 absolute freedom fighters. And Tobago, we need each and every one of you to be a part of this. Because as I keep telling people, I have only 1 vote. Mr. Watson Solomon Duke only has 1 vote. Mr. Shea Grace Burris only has 1 vote. Mr. Farley Chavez Augustine only has 1 vote. On election day, even if all of us in the PDP, all of us who are in the executive, our national executive, led by Dr. Sean Ned, even if every single one of us votes, that would only be about what? 20, 30 votes. It means that we need every single one of you, Tobago, every single one of you to give us your finger, give us your X that day, because that is the only way we would be able to send the 2 freedom fighters. That is the only way we would be able to send Watson Solomon Duke and Tashia Grace Burris to Trinidad with your vote. Let me start though by apologizing for a little mishap that happened yesterday. It wasn't really a mishap. This is what happened. And PDP people, we are honest and we are upfront with you. So yesterday we were supposed to have 2 meetings. Remember, because of the weekend and when we had because we had cancelled a couple meetings Friday, Saturday, and so forth, we decided that we needed to rework the schedule and to do some doubling up and so forth. So yesterday we should have had 2 meetings running simultaneously. One should have been in Black Rock and one should have been in Pembroke. Now, yesterday after I got off of the radio, we had a deep conversation within the belly of the PDP, and we thought, you know what, because the Tobago West candidate needed to have a full force behind her in Black Rock last night, and because we knew the message being the first night of the last 2-week stretch needed to be so strong, we decided at very last minute to cancel the meeting that should have been in Pembroke and have us all go down to Black Rock last night. I apologize on behalf of the Progressive Democratic Patriots for anyone who may not have gotten the message, because we tried calling, we tried reaching, we tried sending out messages, we tried using social media and so forth. If you did not get the message, we humbly apologize. But we know that you are following us because you understand that the PDP is here to build a better Tobago. We will be, and let me also say very quickly, that for those of us who are up in the East, I know that the East is feeling the love and the East is saying, oh, let's forget Belgarden Goodwood, which coincidentally is my seat for THA elections. So we will be in Goodwood tomorrow. Tomorrow evening, as the young people that say we out and bad in Goodwood, up at Cambridge, right by Miss Agnes' shop and by the bar and all of that, we will be in Goodwood tomorrow. That is Wednesday. Tomorrow we will be in Goodwood. But this evening, PDP family, we are heading all the way to Bethel. We are heading to Egypt Junction this evening. We are going to be moving around that area, moving around the Bethel area before, and then head straight to Egypt Junction to have our meeting this evening at about 7:30 is when the actual meeting starts. But before that, the Tobago East and Tobago West candidate will be moving through Bethel, moving through that area, and then at 7:30 or so, we would have our meeting at Bethel, Egypt Junction this evening. Thank you all. Again, I apologize for the mix-up yesterday, but it really was a last-minute thing. You know, when a family working together and realize that, hey, now, even though we had a certain plan, we need to rally the troops. We need to go. We need to move as one. We need to show that there is going to be a total blackout. And we decided that very late yesterday evening. So we said, hey, let's do this. Let me try to find as many people in the Pembroke area as I can. And when we do that, have them all move down to the west. So we had a nice contingent in the west yesterday, and we are going to have another really nice contingent here this evening in Bethel, Egypt Junction. Egypt Junction is where we will be today. Again, sorry. I humbly apologize. You all know, I get good cuss yesterday because my Belgarden Goodwood people are saying, hey, all you forget about we. No. We do not. We are not. We have not forgotten you. We will be in Goodwood tomorrow. And those people who are in the Pembroke area, before we start the meeting in Goodwood, we will start our moving around in Pembroke and come down to Goodwood. So we do Pembroke, Goldsboro, and then end in Goodwood tomorrow. And then next week, I think it's the 7th, but don't quote me on that just yet. Next week, we head up to Belgarden. So we start at Glamorgan and then move up to Belgarden. We have spot meetings up Zion Hill, and then we will have our big meeting down by the field in Belgarden next week. Okay? So this evening we are at Bethel in Egypt Junction. Tomorrow we are in Goodwood. This evening, Bethel Junction. Tomorrow, Goodwood. Okay, guys? Again, if you put on your PDP jersey last night and came to Pembroke Bridge, I humbly apologize for not being able to get the message out to each and every one of you ahead of time. So here, today, because I was throwing up in my mind what I should talk about today. And then I realized that with it being this morning being so grey with these showers of blessings, instead of talking about how evil and wicked them people on the other side is, which we know, we would instead spend a little bit of time this morning talking about the vision that the Progressive Democratic Patriots has for the people of Tobago. And we would focus primarily on education this morning, primarily tertiary education this morning. We would focus on tertiary education, and we would go through in great detail, the vision that the Progressive Democratic Patriots has as it relates to tertiary education in Tobago over the next couple years. Now, you may ask, what does this have to do with the upcoming election? You may ask, what does it have to do with voting in Tashia Grace Burris in Tobago West and voting in Watson Solomon Duke in Tobago East? The answer to that, my dear, is very simple. We have always said that the primary reasons that we are sending these two freedom fighters to Trinidad is because we are asking for two main things. One thing we are going to be negotiating for, and yes, it is going to be a negotiation, and we are sending our master negotiator to Trinidad with your help, of course. One of the things we would be negotiating for would be to get more money from the central government. What would we be doing with the more money from the central government? And one of the things we are pushing for, negotiating for at least 10%, because you all recognize that currently we are getting between 4.03 and 6.9% of the budget. And the reality is, for the last 15 years, we really just been getting the 4.03%. As a matter of fact, I think what they do in Trinidad is that they decide what their budget is, calculate the 4.03%, and just divide that up for Tobago. Because I don't understand how coincidentally all of the different numbers that come out for Tobago does automatically, like clockwork, end up to 4.03%. That is the only way to justify, to make sense of it being exactly 4.03% all the time. So, because they've been doing that for the last couple of years, and because specifically as it relates to developmental funding, when we ask for 1 billion, almost $2 billion for developmental funding, what we've gotten for the last couple of years has been $200 or $300 million. Now, if you really think about it, just think about it. The I Love Tobago sign costs $1 million, we understand. If the I Love Tobago sign all by itself costs $1 million, what $300 million really doing for me? What that really doing for me? Could that really put Tobago in a space where we can truly develop, where our young professionals can say, hey, this is where we see ourselves being able to stay in Tobago and being able to survive in Tobago? Do we have the facilities? Do we have the institutions? Do we have the industries? Do we have the technical capacity to allow our young professionals, to allow all Tobagonians who want to be a part of building this island to be able to stay here and live comfortably? Let's ask ourselves that. And because we are, remember last week sometime, I spoke about the fact that one of the things that we need to look at is investing into Tobago, and I use the idea of a little corner parlor, where initially you have to spend a little bit of money in the beginning to build up the structure. You have to spend a little bit of money to buy the groceries, to stock up the parlor. You have to spend a little bit of money for the first couple weeks to pay the workers, because you may not be getting the kind of sale that you normally get. So you have to spend a little bit of money up front to the business, and after a while the business would be able to sustain itself, and after a year or so the business would be able to actually rake in a profit. That is what we need to happen for Tobago. We need an injection of investment into the island of Tobago. And with that injection of investment we are now seeing a profit. And one of the things that we need to invest into is a first-class, world-renowned tertiary education system on the island. A tertiary education system on the island. And you may ask yourself, or you may say, or they will come to you with the Nancy story and says, but what am they talking about? We already have tertiary institutions on the island. And yes, we do have tertiary institutions on the island. We have campuses of UA, we have campuses of COSTAT, we have campus of all of these things on the island, sure. But one of the key components of having a university on the island to benefit the island is to have foreign students. So we have a situation where we are sending our 2 freedom fighters to Trinidad. We are sending our 2 freedom fighters with your help, because on August 10th, if you put your ex by the Bamboo Bolife, sending Tashia Grace Burris and Watson Solomon Duke to Trinidad, what we are going to be pushing is to get at least 10% of the budget. At least 10% of the budget coming to Tobago. And with that additional money, we can then start building these institutions. And one of those institutions, one of those quote-unquote parlor that Tobago needs is a world-class, internationally renowned tertiary institution on the island of Tobago, where people who are not Tobagonians, people who are not Trinbagonians, people who are outsiders could recognize that this is the best place to come and learn. So they come and they spend their money, they spend their US money on the island. And if you've been at any university or you've researched any university outside of Trinidad and Tobago, you would recognize that one of the things we see very quickly in the US, for example, is that there are 2 tiers of tuition. Yes, you have to pay tuition, but you either pay what is known as in-state tuition, which is cheaper for the people who are living or from in-state, and you have out-of-state tuition, which is usually way more expensive, and it is what the people who are outside of the state have to pay, outside of the country has to pay. And that is what we are also looking at for this University of Tobago, where we have our in-state tuition. The people who are from Tobago, from Trinidad and Tobago, can come, and the price that is paid is one figure for our locals. But because this is a world-class facility that people are going to say, yes, this is the best place to come and learn about vervine and cereseed, because this is the best place to come and learn about those things, they are willing to come all the way from wherever they are and pay the out-of-state tuition to the University of Tobago. The universities that we have here in Tobago, the tertiary institutions that we currently have here in Tobago, do not attract any foreign students, and it is the foreign students that we will use to make the money. It is the foreign students that we need to make the money. And even in this world of COVID, where we would have where we could have distance learning and that kind of thing, we would still need, because the program is one where we can use digital stuff, where we could use electronic stuff, where we can use multimedia and that kind of thing, they would still need to pay the outside tuition, the quote-unquote out-of-state tuition, to be a part of this entity that is the University of Tobago. And let's talk a little bit about how this university will benefit us, each and every one of us, individually and collectively. And yes, I am seeing Miss James on the Facebook Live talking about educational tourism, and that's exactly what it is. Because, and thanks for pointing that out so that I could spend a little time talking about that. Tobago has continually been boasting about the fact that outside of getting subsidies from the government, outside of getting money from the government of Trinidad and Tobago, it is a tourism destination. Now, the thing about Tobago being a tourism destination is that we are now competing with all of the other tourism destinations all over the world. The thing about Tobago's tourism destination issues that, one, we have issues with getting to the island. Let us not even mention how horrible it has been and how difficult it has been to get to the island of Tobago from anywhere else for the last couple of years. Let us not even talk about how difficult it has been. So anybody who is coming to Tobago, who thought about coming to Tobago before, had to think, why am I going to Tobago? Is it worth the hassle of getting to Tobago? By the way, after the crash of the inter-island system over the last 2 or 3 years, and don't let them fool you, it crashed. I have actually met even Trinidadians who tell you, because they experienced the horrible, horrible, horrible system of coming to Tobago with their car, coming on the boat, and being stuck in Tobago. You come for the weekend, you come Friday and you expect to go back Sunday, but because of all the issues with the boat for the last couple of years, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they're still on the island of Tobago, having missed work, having had to close their businesses, having had to do all of those things. I have actually met pretty wealthy Trinidadians who tell you the option of coming to Tobago for a holiday is no longer even an option because of the difficulties they experience getting to Tobago and coming back before. So we have to do a lot of work to rebuild the confidence in the transportation system to get people to Tobago. We have to rebuild that confidence. We also have to recognize that yes, even though Tobago has the most beautiful beaches, and I will fight anybody who says that we do not have the most beautiful beaches, even though we have the most beautiful sand, sea, and sun, there is sand, sea, and sun in other islands. And if you add the fact that Tobago is pretty kind of far to get to, in terms of the Caribbean, it's one of the last islands quite down. And we were having such issues with inter-island transportation, so actually physically getting to the island is an issue. And then when you get here, I have had people complain about the fact that our hotel rates seem to be higher than in other places. So when you couple all of those things, we have a situation where a lot of people in the outer world decided even before COVID that Tobago wasn't the best place to be because there was no real reason to be here. There was no real incentive to come. Yes, we have beautiful sand, sea, and sun, but they can go to other places with beautiful sand, sea, and sun, even though it's less beautiful, because they could spend less money in the hotels and they could get to those places faster. So if Tobago wants to have a tourism destination, we need to create a product for tourism that is greater than just sand, sea, and sun. And having educational tourism is one of the best ways to have an added attraction, an added reason to come to Tobago. And that is what a University of Tobago would do for those who are outside. It will give them a reason to come. Now, the university has to be so well renowned, has to be so well established that it does give them a reason. That is why the Progressive Democratic Patriots has always spoken about the fact that what we can do in the interim is invite other universities that have that world-class name, the Harvards and the MIC and all of those other, the Cambridge University and all of those other places, to partner with the University of Tobago to bring some of their programs to the University of Tobago. So we are doing several things. We are linking Tobago with entities that already have a name, already have a following, already have that notoriety. And we are saying we could marry the two. University of Tobago, Harvard campus, University of Tobago, Cambridge campus, or something like that, so that we bring them. What that also does is allows some of their lecturers, for example, to come to Tobago to lecture in Tobago. It then allows students who may not want to live in Boston because Boston is but would love to live in Tobago because Tobago is full of sand, sea, and sun. So instead of going to Boston, they come to Tobago. That does several things. One, we are bringing world-class lecturers to be a part of our educational system. We are bringing people who already come with a name, already come with a following. And that is something, because I know, for example, there are people who go to universities just because a particular professor is there. And that professor has done so much work in research, or that professor has done so much work and has written so many papers that that professor actually is the pull to that university. Those are the kinds of ways we have thought about developing this university. But of course, that would take some injection of money to get that. To pull the professor so-and-so who is willing to leave their space. And by the way, don't think this cannot happen, Because while I was at the University of Pittsburgh, Qatar, the Middle Eastern country Qatar, Qatar, if you want to search it, they actually created a university city in Qatar. And part of their university city was actually pulling campus of all these. So you had a campus from MIC, there was a campus of Carnegie Mellon University, campus of all of these different universities from all over the world have functions in Qatar. And they said, okay, instead of Qatar trying to create an entire university on its own, we are pulling these different universities, asking the professors, hey, we are willing to pay you and your family to come teach at this university in Qatar. We are paying you your normal salary, plus we're paying you this additional incentive to come. We're paying all your travel expenses for you and your family to come over, and that kind of thing is what they did. So if you go look for university, I think the term is university city or something like that in Qatar, Qatar, you would see that what you are getting there is actually satellite universities from all over the world, some of the best from all over the world. And if Qatar can do it, why not Tobago? Why not Tobago? See, because we have to start thinking outside of the box that we have been put in for the last how many years. We have to start thinking about ways of doing things, because my personal mantra is there is always a way. It doesn't matter what the problem is, there is always a solution. We just need to think a little bit about how we will fix it. We just need to think a little bit about how we will go about finding the solution and executing it. But my dear, there is always a solution, no matter what it is. And the people who've worked with me while I worked at the THA in the Division of Health and so forth, they would also tell you that my mantra is there is always a solution. So when you are coming with a problem, let us brainstorm and come with the solution too. So we have this world-class entity known as the University of Tobago that comes from different entities throughout. That comes from having a campus from Harvard, or campus from MIC, or campus from, all of these other places that already have that world-renowned name. That's one thing. So it already brings with it having that person paying. So it's basically, you pay the salary for that professor to come from Harvard. And even though it seems like you are paying a lot, what you are doing is actually paying for that person to come and to bring their worth with them. You're paying for the university to come and bring their worth with them, and that we are then going to benefit from the university or from that institution and from that professor's worth coming with them. So let's not say we can't do it. I have actually seen it happen and seen it work, and we simply need to duplicate it, do the work, do the hard work. And believe me, it is going to be hard work, and spend the money. And that is why when the Progressive Democratic Patriots tells you that we are heading to Trinidad and sending 2 freedom fighters, and they will be negotiating for more of the resources, for at least 10% of the national budget, these are the kinds of things that we would then use that money for. And you have to think of the fact that when those 2 freedom fighters from the PDP go to Trinidad, we then have the Tobago House of Assembly election shortly after, whether it's January or before. And then we have the PDP freedom fighters in Tobago ready and willing to execute these things with that 10%. And yes, I am seeing Mr. Nurse on Facebook saying that yes, Tobago must have its own university, and this was a vision of Dr. Maureen. Certainly, this isn't new. The PDP is not saying that we are inventing any of these things, because we recognize that these are ideas that have been out there and they were just never executed, because those who were in the executive don't have that kind of vision for Tobago. They don't understand what we're talking about. And because they don't understand, they cannot execute. And that's why it would take them 15 years, 10 years to build a police station, and then want to come and boast that they give you a police station. Yeah, but it took you 15 years to build something that you should have been able to build in a couple months. So don't come and boast about a police station that it took you 15 years to build. As a matter of fact, you should be ashamed to put those things on your 41 list of accomplishments, because it shows that it takes you 15, 20 years to do the simplest of things. Tobago needs way more than what you are offering. So let's talk a little bit about how this would influence you. One, the way we envision this University of Tobago is not to necessarily have a single big plant in a single central space. We see all of Tobago. The entire 116 square miles, as the campus. So we have an island campus. That is how we see it. We would also see putting different aspects of it, different faculties of it, in areas that are already relating, or in areas that are known for those kinds of activities. Areas that are relating to those kinds of activities. So we have looked at, and this was actually in our mandate for the 2017 THA elections. We actually looked at having a Faculty of Food Production, Marine and Environmental Studies. Faculty of Food Production, Marine and Environmental Studies. And a faculty like this could start being based in Goldsboro. If you're talking about marine and environmental studies, faculty like this could be based in Speyside. So we are not just talking about putting one big structure or having one single space, but we will have these different faculties as it relates to different things in different parts of the island, throughout the island. Because what we are seeing and what we hope is that Tobago develops holistically, that all of the development does not happen only on one end of the island, but the development happens throughout the entire island. We also envision having a Faculty of Innovation and Business Development. Faculty of Innovation and Business Development. Now, something like that could actually be down on the western end, when we already have so many businesses and that kind of thing thriving down on this end. Faculty of Innovation and Business Development. We also need to have, and I will go into detail about what each of these faculties would do a little later, is the Faculty of Arts, Culture and Tourism. Faculty of Arts, Culture and Tourism. And again, we could think about having, Lekito as being a space for a part of the campus with arts, culture and tourism. Imagine that, you're in the back of Lekito, you're in the back of Arnosville, you're in the back somewhere behind there. And because this faculty is there, we now have the development happening around that area. And we also would like to have a faculty of public, applied, and alternative health. And as again I said, we are going to talk about what each of those faculties can do a little later. But if you have public, applied, and alternative health, we can then find a space maybe in the north, because we're talking about alternative health. We are talking about applied health. We are talking about having rehab and that kind of thing. So you need a space that is conducive to that kind of thing. Those are the kinds of things. So if we have those 4 different faculties and we fit those 4 different faculties in different parts of the island, we now have a situation where the entire island benefits. Because one, when you have the faculty there, it means that you may have to do construction. It means that the people in the community who are in construction would then have an opportunity. We would then have a situation where, because we have faculties spread throughout the island, the students who come would live close to where the faculty is. So we then see where we have students down on the west, in the east, in the north, all over the island. We would have students because the different faculties are in different locations. When we have students there, it means that the students have to live somewhere. It means then that the members of the community can now have apartments that are specifically geared to students. When we have students there, it means that those students need to eat. The members of the communities can then have restaurants and those things around for students to eat. Entertainment needs to happen. Members of the community will then have entertainment options for the students in the area. And of course, when there are students there, the students would ultimately bring their families to come and visit. So at any given point, you may have 5,000 students spread throughout the island, but at certain points of the year, we have 5,000 students plus their entire family from wherever they are coming to the island. All of their family members have to sleep, have to eat, have to wear clothes, and all of those things. And what we are doing then is then creating economic activity within each community. So the community benefits by the development of the institution. Let's just say we have to build a structure or whatever. But after the institution is there, the community can then get economic gain from having those people on the island continually. Now, as I said, remember last week I gave the idea of the parlor. Taking money now, because we would need a couple $1 million well to do that. But the investment of a couple million well into a project like that could ultimately mean, yes, we need the plenty money now, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, the entire island will benefit from that investment. It is putting the little bit of money to put up the structure, to buy the material and all of that. Putting up the structure, buy the material, buy the groceries, pay the initial salaries. That is the money initially. But years later, we recognize that the return from that is multiplied. That is the kind of development that Tobago needs. And that is the kind of development that the Progressive Democratic Patriots is seeking to do for this island. That is what we are seeking to do for this island. That is why it is absolutely important for this island to move from this standstill position, because we have been marking time. The reality is we have been marking time for the last 20 years in Tobago. Anybody who is honest with themselves, even those on the red side, they would tell you that apart from the structures that it took them 15, 20 years to build, what do we really have on this island that we have invested in that the people can say, yes, I am benefiting economically from that thing? Can we identify any? No, because what they did is spend money on structures. What they did is spend money, and they took 15, 20 years cost overruns like that to put the structure in place without thinking about holistically how is the structure going to fit into a larger developmental plan for the island. That is the part that has been missing for the last 20 years. That is the part that the Progressive Democratic Patriots is coming with. So we know that when we spend this $1 million, we can tell you, yes, we are confident that spending this $1 million would renown in us gaining $5 million, $10 million by 10 years from now. Because we've already done that kind of study. We've already done that kind of assessment. We've already recognized that the rate of return for spending this $1 million on this is going to be that, which makes it worth it. It means that when we go to Trinidad and say we need that $1 million, they can't tell we no, because most of the times they just tell we no because we don't even know why we want the $1 million. But the Progressive Democratic Patriots is coming with this with a comprehensive plan that says every dollar we spend, we are spending it because we know the return to the island would be this amount. And that is why we need that money to be spent. Now, the other reason, the other benefit, apart from just the economics, apart from just the economy, the other thing that a university does for an island is allows problem solving, active problem solving to happen. The university that I went to the University of Pittsburgh, and an amazing institution. But one of the things I quickly learned while being there is that the university was not just there to educate its students. No. The university was there to educate its students. That was one almost tiny part of it. But the university was in place to problem solve for the community. So all of the issues that we are having on the island of Tobago, all of the big issues, all of the small issues that we are having on the island of Tobago, we can have our university students and our university lecturers and our university staff spend their entire time brainstorming about these problems and coming up with solutions. That, my dear, is going to be what changes Tobago. So we have an issue right now where the farmers are telling me that they're having a real issue with the cockrico and the guti and them, and they're eating the plants. And they don't know what to do because we have laws that says that those things are, we're not supposed to hunt them at a certain time and they are protected and whatnot. So we could have a situation where the university students within one of those faculties, food production, for example, could actually think about what is the most innovative way to deal with that situation. So you have the students doing their dissertation on it. You have the lecturers studying about it. So the lecturers are actually going to be also leading all of these multiple research projects happening throughout the island, where every single project they work on is looking for a solution for a problem that Tobago currently has. How do we deal with having the kinds of escalating crime that's happening? What's really causing the crime that's happening? How do we deal with that? That is what students are there for. Students are research people. Students are thinkers. And if we have a University of Tobago that is there aimed at creating students whose option, whose thing is to think, we will then come up with all of the solutions that we need to fix the problems that we have in Tobago. So yes, we have the economic part of it, where we make the money from the tuition and we make the money from selling food and from providing accommodation for the students that come in and all of that. Yes, we make the money that way. But Tobago also benefits exponentially by having institutions that are, in essence, think tanks. And they are think tanks thinking about all of the issues that Tobago is experiencing and figuring out how we fix it. Those are what research projects are. Those are what dissertations are. That is what we should be doing. And that is why the University of Tobago has to be one that, even though we are calling in entities from outside to help build the name and to build the notoriety and so forth, the program has to be one that is Tobago centered. The program has to be one that is flexible to deal with the issues of Tobago. The program has to be one. Exactly. I am seeing somebody on Facebook tell me, study the use of the sargassum. Exactly. We have this issue every single year, and every single year we don't know what to do. The first year that the sargassum rolled upon us a couple years ago, our students should have been out there picking up the sargassum, breaking it into pieces, studying it in the lab to see what exactly is in it, determining what is the best formula to turn it into fertilizer. Do we just have to rinse out the salt and use it, or can we then mix it with some other kind of bush or some other kind of weed or something to make it into the best fertilizer, and then use that within our food production system, or even better, market it outside of Trinidad and Tobago? Perfect example. Thank you, Delisha, for that thought. Perfect example of why the University of Tobago is so critical, because it would be used to help solve our every problem. And it's going to be a continual think tank for the people of Tobago. So yes, there's the economic benefit. But you then get the benefit of having a think tank on the island continually helping to solve our problems. So how is this linked to Tashia Grace Burris and Watson Solomon Duke going to Trinidad? It is linked because one of the things we are going to do first is negotiate for at least 10% of the budget, and we need that additional money to spend on developing that university. So there's a money part of it. Another thing we are going to negotiate on behalf of Tobago is something that I spoke about last time, is to be able for Tobago to make laws that affect issues of Tobago. So if we recognize, for example, that even though in Trinidad and Tobago the hunting season is a particular time, but in Tobago the Gutianguana and them, even though technically we're not supposed to be hunting them according to Trinidad and Tobago law, but we know that our farmers are having hell with the Gutianguana, we could actually make an assembly law, a Tobago law in Tobago that says for a certain period, certain groups of people can hunt, and you have to go through this entire process, because you have to be, whether it's a lawyer, but not a lawyer, an agricultural person, you have to work with forestry, you have to do it in a particular way so that we can treat with the issues. That are dealing here. So yes, there is a law in Trinidad and Tobago that says hunting season is open or hunting season is closed, but because we know what is happening here in Tobago, and we know how critical and how destructive the Gutianguana and those things are for our farmers, we can have a separate law that says, okay, yes, hunting season is open or closed for certain groups of people, but as it relates to farmers, as it relates to environmentalists, as it relates to so-and-so, this is what you can do on the island. And being able to make laws on our own in Tobago, where we don't have to go to the cabinet, beg the cabinet to send it to Parliament, and beg Parliament to debate it for us, because they don't care. That is not of concern to them. We should be able to make that kind of law here and do that and send it directly to the president for his or her signature. That is what we should be able to do. And that is also one of the things that Tashia Grace Burris and Watson Solomon Duke would be negotiating for when we are speaking about modifying the Tobago House of Assembly Act. And that reminds me, on one of those days, maybe I'll do it tomorrow, I'll spend a little time going through the entire Tobago House of Assembly Act so that you see what we are working with now, and you see the different changes that we will be negotiating to make in that act. Because we need to know. Tobagonians, you need to know that when the Progressive Democratic Patriot says that we want you to vote for us because of these things, we're not talking about no papi show. We're not coming and telling you nothing about having to because you build a police station and a fire station, that is it, and it take you 20 years to do it. No. The Progressive Democratic Patriot is talking about holistic development, and we are talking about development that will change your life for the better and change the lives of the generations for the better. That's the kind of thing we are talking about, and that's why we need two people who ain't afraid nobody done so. Two people who would get up in Parliament and had to mash up Parliament if that is what needs to happen for us to do this. Two people who are going to be speaking on behalf of Tobago and Tobago only. They will not be speaking on behalf of the PDP, because the PDP has said very clearly that we are putting people before politics. So they're not going to go down there and talk about a PDP agenda. They are going to talk about a Tobago agenda. Because as I said yesterday, these are things that we had already spoken about for Tobago. These are things that Tobagonians have always said they wanted. So let me go through really quickly some of the things that can be studied or can be looked at the various faculties. Remember, I told you, so you could write this down, we are looking at 4 different faculties for this University of Tobago. The first faculty deals with, of course, food production, marine and environmental studies. Food production, marine and environmental studies. What do we need to do on this island of Tobago to ensure that we are food secure, to ensure that we have food sovereignty? Because food security basically means you have enough food to eat when you need it. Food sovereignty talks about you having more than enough food and you having more than enough of the kinds of foods you want to eat when you want to eat it. And that's what we are talking about. How do we get to the point of having food sovereignty? So we talk about food production. What are the different kinds of things that we can produce here in Tobago? How are we going to use breadfruit? Yes. If you listen to me talk from last election, you would recognize that I am a breadfruit girl. I love my breadfruit. I would eat breadfruit, breakfast, lunch, and dinner if you give me a chance. How do we turn the breadfruit that we have dropping and wasting in Tobago into breadfruit flour? How do we turn it into breadfruit chips? How do we turn it into all of those things? How do we ensure that the cassava, instead of having a cassava company that can't tell you how much cassava they actually manufacture or how much cassava products they actually use, actually have a situation where you have cassava being cultivated and being used and being turned into everything. All you don't know how much it does vex me. How much it does vex me every time I go and buy a cassava chip or a plantain chip and realize it come from Costa Rica or Jamaica or something. Why we doing that? When we have cassava here, we are planting here, we are all of them thing here. The university, the faculty that deals with food production, marine and environmental studies can help us learn how to package those things, how to make them in a way that would Yes, agro-processing would help us, because that university should actually have as part of its plans food testing facilities, because we know that to get our products outside of Trinidad and Tobago, they need to be tested and certified as food as safe and wholesome. Because that's one of the requirements that is needed to send things outside of Trinidad and Tobago. So as part of that, we could have those kinds of labs here, so that, if you are in a business where that is what you need to do, you come to the university to get it done. You come to the university to get it done, because that is part of what the university does. Of course, we have marine and environmental studies, and that is endless. We have our coastal erosion happening. What's happening with that? How do we fix that? How do we deal with that? How do we deal with the fact that we have fish all over the place and our fishermen don't know how much fish we have in the sea? We have no fish count happening. That is what the university, so students 1 year, their entire project would be to calculate the kinds of fish, the volume of fish, where they are migrating to and from out there. That is what we should be looking at. And that is what that Faculty of Food Production, Marine and Environmental Studies can look at. Then we have innovation and business development. Innovation and business development. Now, we know that we have ideas. We know that plenty of us have business plans. Many of us know how to make with little wherever it is. But when it comes to the actual business part of it, when it comes to you need to have your accounts in order and create your business plan and execute, and knowing what it takes to get your business from a mom and pop shop to send it internationally and all of those things, we don't have that kind of capacity on the island. And because we don't have it, we need to educate about it. So the Faculty of Innovation and Business Development, that is what that could focus on. So we would then have a bunch of people, and again, remember I said the University of Tobago would include locals being at the university, but it would also include foreigners coming and being at the university. So don't think for a minute we will not be educating our people at the university too. And you would be able to have people who are training, people who are part of this. The students, for example, imagine this, at that Faculty of Business, of Innovation and Business Development. For 1 year or one term, the project for a group of business students could actually be to go out into the communities and work with community members to create their business plans, work with community members to do what is necessary to be in business. So you are building yourself as a student, you are learning how to do it as a student, but part of your project is to go out there and help work with the village council, work with the whoever to get the businesses in the community up to that level. That's a project that we can do out of the University of Tobago as part of the Faculty of Innovation and Business Development. That is part of what we can do. So that way, you have the students coming out with the degrees, but you also have the entire village, the entire island benefiting from the knowledge that those students have. Then we can have what is known as business incubators. That is being a part of an actual business incubator could be part of the rotation that the students need to go through. So part of it, we have the business incubator, because by the way, they have spoken about a business incubator on the THA books for the last how many millions of years, and we are yet to see that business incubator do anything. We are yet to see people who have actually gotten their business started and incubated through the business incubator that has been on the books for the THA. So this would be a perfect example of having that business incubator within the THA work very closely with the University of Tobago to ensure that businesses on the island are incubated in the way that they should. And then we have the third faculty of Arts, Culture and Tourism. And that is where we have everything that we think of Tobago. Everything that we think of as is Tobago, our dance, our singing, our drumming, our Tobago Heritage Festival, all of those things. We could learn about them. We can learn about our history, and we can learn how to then monetize all of these things. So we have the University of Tobago, Faculty of Art, Culture and Tourism, working closely again with the Tobago House of Assembly Festivals Commission in the development of the Tobago Heritage Festival. In the taping of the Tobago Heritage Festival. So you not only have a one-day event, but you have an event that was well produced, that was actually put on CD, that was captured, and then you can run that internationally, then you can sell that internationally. Then the tourists who are here who want to go, imagine that, imagine if you could go to a heritage festival tonight, and after you are leaving the heritage festival, you can go with a copy of the production of that thing that you just saw tonight. You can go with that. You loved it so much, you want to take it back to your family and friends. You are willing to pay $100 for the CD or for the whatever it is. So we have the University of Tobago with the Faculty of Arts, Culture and Tourism working again with the THA to put this together. And again, yes, tourism, cultural tourism. That would be amazing. We have a situation here where, for example, students of the Faculty of Arts, Culture and Tourism could actually spend their time codifying our Tobago dialect. We need a Tobago dictionary. I know many of us grew up thinking that the Queen's English is the only language that we should be speaking and we should be proud of. But the reality is our local dialect is a language. And it is a language that needs to be codified and needs to be written down, and we need to have dictionaries and books and so forth about it. So you imagine students from the Faculty of Arts, Culture and Tourism spending their time going through the quote-unquote Tobago language, finding the best way to put it on paper, the best way to have it sound and to codify it and put it like that so that we know when I always say are we, how you gonna spell are we? And that there's a standard way of writing the word are we. And we sell to the tourists and to the locals the dictionary that says are we, spelt the quote-unquote correct way, and then saying are we means all of us. All of us. They would love to be able to look at that. We also have within the Faculty of Arts, Culture and Tourism, we have a lot of people. We have a whole lot of people, old people with a whole lot of Tobago's tourism, Tobago's history in their head. A whole lot of Tobago's history in their head. History about what happened way back when. History about which bush we're supposed to use for what. History about all of those things. We can have students as part of their work actually go in and sit with these old people, interview them, pull that information out of them so that when that person passes on to the other realm, we don't lose all of that information. That is what we should be doing. That is what the University of Tobago, with the Faculty of Art, Culture and Tourism would be doing. So we are gaining a group of people who actually knows what they are doing. So when we talk about Tobago's culture, and when we talk about Tobago's history, and when we talk about all of those, we are speaking from a position of knowledge, speaking from a position of, yes, we actually studied this so we know what we are talking about. And the final faculty is one of public, applied and alternative medicine. Because we know we bush. I personally believe that some of the reasons that we are not getting as sick as we should be getting with this COVID story is because plenty of we that still drink with Vervine and with Seroseed and with this and with Trumpet Bush and with all of those things. The cure for COVID probably right there in your backyard that you're pulling and draw and drink your bush tea in the morning. That is why we not getting as sick as plenty of the other places are getting us sick. But because we are not actively studying it, because we are not actively going into the rainforest, for example, and looking at the different kinds of bush, the different kinds of weeds, the different kinds of shrubs that we have, because we are not actually doing that, we don't know. And that is what a University of Tobago can do. It could help us know, because we could then have a lab where we then dissect trumpet bush so that we know what trumpet bush means. What trumpet bush have in it. Why has trumpet bush been used for whatever it's been used for the longest while? Why does it work? This is the kind of information that we need to have. And having a University of Tobago with faculties of culture, faculties of applied and alternative medicine, of those kinds of things would help pull all of the things that our foreparents taught us, that have worked all of these years. Pulling all of that together is what we can use to then develop Tobago, we can use to then market Tobago. So when we have this, when we have the university studying all of that, we can then go over and say, okay, we did the educational tourism. We have the students coming in. We are learning about all of this. We know all of that. Now we can say we have the health tourism, and a day we'll talk about the health tourism thing, where we can then tell people all over the world that instead of going to other places, so yes, you could go to Cuba to get your surgery and whatever. We're not trying to compete with those things because we already know they already have their name. So after you got to Cuba to get your surgery, come to Tobago. Come to Tobago, and we have a facility that's nested up in the hills of Palliative Air somewhere, or Lansome somewhere, where you get the freshest air, where you get a sea bath every day if you wish. Those things are what you can then advertise as part of our tourism product, our health tourism product. So when they come in now, they know that they are coming to rehab right here in Tobago. They're coming to live right here in Tobago, to get better right here in Tobago. We'll talk about that medical tourism thing on another day. So as you could see, this vision that we have for the Tobago, University of Tobago, is not just one where we say, and that is what they've been telling you. We talk about University of Tobago with all of these plans in mind. And then those on the other side would come and tell you, well, we already have CUSTAT and we already have UE and we already have. And those things are wonderful for our students here. But what we envision is bigger and better than what we already have here. We are not saying that those are not good, but the Progressive Democratic Patriots vision of the University of Tobago is actually bigger and better and more expansive than what those entities already have. So let me read a couple WhatsApp messages. One says, we definitely need to harvest this information and preserve it. Yes, so we are talking about a lot of the information that our old people have, our older people, our granny and great granny, those have. We cannot afford to lose the details of our bush medicine, alternative medicine. I agree 100%. And when we are marketing ourselves as a place to come and rehab, we are saying you're coming and rehab. So in addition to your traditional tablets, you're also coming with the bush tea, because that is part of our rehab. That is part of our rehab situation. That is part of our rehab. Those are the things we are looking at. So when we speak about the University of Tobago, when we speak about the university, and by the way, the Minority Council of the Tobago House of Assembly, which is the led by Mr. Watson Duke, Minority Leader, includes Assemblyman Farley Chavez Augustine and includes myself. I am the Minority Councillor in the Tobago House of Assembly. Last year, the beginning of last year, or maybe it was the year before, the years have gone around so quickly, we actually piloted in the Tobago House of Assembly, in one of the debates, a motion to have a University of Tobago. Of course, when we did that, they went ahead and they talk all kind of rigmarole story about what they're doing and what they're already doing and what they do already. Yes, that is what they comment at these sittings, eh? We come with real plans, real ideas, and they come with, well, all you do have to talk about that because we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing this, we're doing that. And we could recognize that several months, several years later, they have done absolutely nothing with it. They have done absolutely nothing with it. Because what they did is just come to try to, as the young people that say, fight down the Minority Council. That is what they came to do, fight it down. So instead of listening carefully and letting us work together, so we could have worked over the last year, 2 years to do this together, they fight it down. They said, we're doing it already. And several years later, what is there to show for it? What is there to show for it? And that's the point that we were trying to make. Don't come and tell me what you're doing, what you're doing, what you're doing. Let's have a real debate. Let's have a real conversation about the best way to do these things. Because we are not just talking because we want to make all you look bad. Yes, the reality is because you've been here for the last 20 years and all you could show is a fire station and a gas station, not even a gas station, a fire station, a police station, an administrative complex. By the way, the administrative complex in Roxborough that they're boasting about and they're writing up and down, it actually functioning, it actually open, it actually have people there every day, whole day. The air condition working. Somebody tell me, the air condition up in the administrative complex in Roxborough, it working? It had telephone up there? It had internet up there? It actually have offices up there functioning every single day yet? Or they just only use it when they're going up there to give away food card and to give away stove and fridge? Is it? Tell me somebody. Again, if you're listening to me on the air and you know that I'm wrong, as I said a couple days ago, there are many things I don't mind being wrong about. I will add this to the list. Is the administrative complex in Roxborough, one of the things that they keep boasting about that they gave us, is it even officially open? Or do they only use it almost as a party building? Is it? So, those are the kinds of things the Progressive Democratic Patriots is saying to the people of Tobago. This is why in 2015, Mr. Watson Solomon Duke took it upon himself to contest the national election as a Tobago East candidate, as an independent. This is why, when we came in 2017, Mr. Duke pulled together 11 other fighters to contest the Tobago House of Assembly elections. And we went from a situation where the other party had a 12-0, because remember the election before that, they had a 12-0. The other party had 12-0. They won. So we went from a situation where we had 12-0 to a situation where we had 10-2. And I saw that as a major victory. I saw that as a major victory, because they went from a situation where there was no opposition to one where we had 2 seats. And by the way, I lost my seat, Goodwood Belgarden, by 5 votes. I know, every time I say it, it has burned my heart, but I need to say it over and over and over so that Tobagonians recognize the importance of every single vote. The importance of every single vote. So don't allow August 10th to come around and you stay home and not vote because of some Nancy story. No. If I could have been an area representative, and by the way, it's the way everybody in Goodwood Belgarden does call me for everything as if I am the area representative, but I don't mind. That was the job I signed up for, and even if I am not officially there, that is what I am doing now, because it is the job I signed up for. No, I am not getting paid to be the area rep, but that is the job I signed up for. And even if I didn't get it at that go around, I still work as if that is my job, because it is what we got into politics to do. Let me read this comment. Dr. Faith, good morning. Thanks for sharing the vision of the PDP. Very enlightening. I know your contribution or program this morning is based on tertiary education, but please allow me the opportunity to voice a serious concern, and sure I will continue reading. What is really going on with our healthcare system in Tobago? That is a critical question. And it is something very close to my heart, and I will take a day and talk about it. Being an entity of the diaspora, I am really concerned for my Tobago people as it pertains to the healthcare system in Tobago, the person says. How could the government spend so much money building the Scarborough General Hospital building and other healthcare structures, yet fail so miserably in putting in place the mechanism of providing efficient and effective critical healthcare service to the people of Tobago? Why is it that ever so often folks have to be flown out to Trinidad when it comes to the needs of critical healthcare treatment? Just overnight, I saw when a young man who was reportedly grazed by a bullet succumbed to his injury. That's ridiculous, sad, and I am so sorry for, we've had 2 deaths as a result of gunshot wounds within the last couple of days, and one we understand really was just grazed by a bullet. It was just a stray bullet, and condolences to the family of both victims. Condolences. But that shows something, because my understanding is that the injury for the second person who just died was really not that quote-unquote serious. The person who is messaging continued. In any developing society, especially one which aspires to attract visitors from the outside world, a well-functioning healthcare system is very critical. We can't be focusing on just putting up healthcare structures and cutting ribbons without focusing on ensuring the serviceability, usefulness of that facility is of the very highest standard. All services must be readily available at these facilities. The people of Tobago deserve much better than what is being served by the current administration. Maybe you will be able to focus one of your programs on the healthcare system in Tobago. Thank you. And yes, I will be focusing one of my programs coming up within the next 2 weeks on healthcare. I will be focusing on that. But he is 100% correct, because you recognize that one of the things that they are also boasting about is the fact that they have quote-unquote completed and I put it in air quotes, completed the Roxborough hospital. But is it really completed? Because remember, we quote-unquote completed the Scarborough General Hospital several years ago. And even though it was completed, we still have a situation where it seems like even the most basic of things, the most basic of services you can't get. I have a friend who did an MRI in November, a CT scan, November or so, and we are still waiting for the results. The CT scan was done in like October, November, because the person was having severe pains and that kind of thing. And it is now July, and we're still waiting. We're still waiting for the results. It's like, wow. I mean, if this, thank God, it is not a critical, life-threatening, life or death situation because the person is still alive, thank God. But what about the others? What about the others who have not been able to make it so far? So you ask yourself, why am I talking about the University of Tobago, which really is a THA? Because remember, the Tobago House of Assembly Act says that the Tobago House of Assembly is responsible for education. So the University of Tobago is really a function of the Tobago House of Assembly. But I am spending time to talk about it now so that you can make the link. And that link is the fact that sending a progressive Democratic Patriots fighter in the name of Watson Sullivan Duke and another fighter in the name of Tashia Grace Boris to represent us in the parliament means that they will be fighting for several things, negotiating for several things, one of which being money for the Tobago House of Assembly to do its work. And one of the functions that the Tobago House of Assembly would need quite a bit of money to do would be to create this University of Tobago. So no, I am not spending the 2 hours this morning talking about something that is not relevant. It is most relevant. We need investment into these things on the island because that is what it takes to develop the island. That is what it takes to get us to the point where we can sustain ourselves. Remember I started saying a couple of days ago about this idea of Tobago being independent. And no, I am not talking about secession. No, I am not talking about I am not talking about breaking up this country known as Trinidad and Tobago. I'm not talking about that. For some of you who are from the Red Party who I see jumping in on a live, I hope I am making myself very, 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 very clear. I am not talking about separating the two islands known as Trinidad and Tobago into two different countries. No. I am talking about developing Tobago to a point where it can experience a level of independence the way Trinidad currently experiences that level of independence. And I will use the same examples I used several days ago. If Trinidad needs to borrow money from anywhere in the open market, Trinidad could get up tomorrow and decide we're leading to borrow $1 million. We go in and borrow $1 million. Trinidad does not have to come to Tobago to say, Tobago, what do you all think about us borrowing $1 million? No, they do not. If Tobago needs to borrow $1 million, we need to go to Trinidad first and say, Trinidad, we want to borrow $1 million. Can you give us permission to do it, please? That's what I'm talking about. If we have a situation here where and it happens every day, we have businesses, we have business people in Tobago who are bringing in cargo to sell in Tobago, because we don't have manufacturing companies in Trinidad and Tobago. We don't manufacture cars, we don't manufacture TVs, we don't manufacture anything. So any of those things that need to be purchased in Trinidad and Tobago needs to come from where they are manufactured. Any businessman in Tobago, businesswoman in Tobago who wants to bring in anything of worth in Tobago needs to bring it in to Trinidad, because there are no cargo ports in Tobago, seaports in Tobago. And even when you think about the airports, we have to ask ourselves, how many international cargo flights actually come to Trinidad? Not many. So when we are talking about seaports, we don't have any seaports international, CARICOM, regional seaport in Tobago. So every single businessman in Tobago who needs to bring in 100 TVs has to bring it in through Trinidad and then go down to Trinidad to collect it and then bring it to Tobago. Trinidad is experiencing a level of independence right now that Tobago is not experiencing. If Trinidad wants to change a law, if Trinidad wants to bring a new law about anything in Trinidad, they can go to their parliament in Trinidad and do it. If Tobago needs to bring a law about anything in Tobago, we have to debate it in Tobago, send it to the cabinet for them to think about it. When they agree that they will send it to parliament, parliament then debates it and then takes it to the president if it is passed. Trinidad go, they decide, they do the thing and send it to cabinet, send it to the president. Tobago does not have the authority currently to do that. So when we, the Progressive Democratic Patriots, the Bamboo Bolife, are talking about redefining the independence of Tobago, within this union known as Trinidad and Tobago. That is what we are talking about. Don't let any of those people on the red side come and tell you that we are talking stupidness. As the Prime Minister said the other day. Anybody, and you know how the Wajam, you know the way he is, the raging bull, talking about if anybody tell you about independence for Tobago, they're talking stupidness. And you know how it does carry on. Tell him that we understand what we are talking about, and we understand what Tobago needs to develop. And as a Tobagonian, he should have been the one championing this for us. He should have been the one championing this for us instead of trying to tell us that we deserve nothing. He should have been the one championing this for us. Those two Tobago MPs, the two that you voted for, the two that we voted for, because you know what? After election, it comes to an end. The politics thing comes to an end. So technically, because those two MPs are the two MPs that went down, Tobago voted for them to go down and speak on our behalf. And after we collectively voted for them to go and speak on our behalf, we expected them to speak on behalf of Tobagonians. We expected them to stand up and speak on behalf of Tobagonians. What did they do? Nothing. And they have the gall to come back and tell you to send them down there for another 5 years? Why? Is what? We stupid? We don't understand nothing? We don't get it that we sent you to do our work. We sent you to do our work and you ain't doing the work. So we're supposed to send you to do it again? We're supposed to send you to do nothing again? Why would we do that? Why would we do that? I'm getting another message on WhatsApp. It says, morning, doctor. Along the lines of the port, I heard the PNM now saying that they are building docking for large cruise ships. Question, where is he planning to put this? In the dock pond? And that's the other thing. I'm glad you raised that. Because the same quote-unquote we boy Tobago Prime Minister was actually one of the people when our ENR Robinson was pushing to get that Scarborough port built. He was one of them who asked me where we're going with that duck pond. It is amazing how much this man who is supposed to be Tobagonian, this Prime Minister who's supposed to be our freedom fighter, has hated Tobago from day one. Because he has never one day said something on behalf of Tobago. Never. Not when he was a senator, not when he was in any of the positions that he was in, not as Prime Minister. He has not. And every Tobagonian needs to remember that. Every Tobagonian needs to remember that he is now part of the organization. He now leads the organization where their founding father said to Tobago, because you all did not vote for me, you all could eat grass. And he has come again with the same kind of thing, talking about if all you vote for Watson, what he gonna do and what he ain't gonna do. Seriously? And he's the one that is supposed to be championing the cause of Tobagonians. Seriously? That is what you're telling me? And we supposed to just sit down and let them do that to we? We supposed to just sit down and let them do that to us? Really? Because what, we stupid? No. The Progressive Democratic Patriots has said, enough. You have gone far enough. No further. Because we understand that our citizens, every single one of our citizens, deserves better. We understand that every single one of our citizens deserves to live in a space where you can be comfortable. Every single citizen deserves to be able to go to a University of Tobago right here in Tobago and then not to worry about picking up the Georgie bundle and going anywhere else. Every single citizen of Tobago deserves proper housing, proper health care, proper transportation, proper everything. It doesn't matter who you vote for. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter. None of those things matters. Because you are a citizen of this island, you deserve good. And anybody who is trying to tell you that the good that the Progressive Democratic Patriots is trying to give to you does not like you, does not love you, does not want you to prosper. And you have to ask yourself why. Why is it that they are willing to allow you to prosper so that they can continue doing what they are doing? Because for many of them, be very careful. For many of them who are coming to your doors, for many of them who are telling you to do this and to do that and to don't listen to Watson and say this and to share that, Many of them already have, as I said several times, the bread already butter. Many of them on several boards already. Many of them getting the salary every month, plus the board stipend, plus the board stipend, plus the board stipend. Many of them live in the nice big house already. So when they come in and tell you, don't listen to Faith, don't listen to Watson, don't listen to Tashia, don't listen to Farley, ask them why. Who should you listen to? Because they already living life good. And when you go home, you have to try to figure out where you're getting your next meal from. Their bread already butter, and you trying to figure out where you getting the flour to make your bread. Where you getting the flour to make your bread. Their bread already well butter, top and bottom butter. So ask them. When they come and tell you about the right choice, ask them, right choice for who? And when they come with the Nancy story about the fire station and the police station and the administrative complex and all of that, and you recognize all of that. You recognize all of that, Tobago. Don't let them try to fool you. They were in charge in Tobago, in Roxborough, Delaford for all of these years. And as soon as Roxborough people, Belgan people, Delaford people, Bessisore people, Kendall, Argyle people say, okay, we're tired with all you. Let me give Watson a chance. They're running now. They're running now 10, 15 years later and they're putting up everything. They're running now and they're putting up everything. When all of those things have been on the books for the last 10, 15, 20 years. They have been on the books for the last 20 years. So what? It is very obvious that it is only because Watson is there now that they feel the need to give you a little bit of trinkets. That is what is happening. So don't let them come and tell you that those are the things they delivered, because it took them 15, 20 years to deliver them. And the only reason they delivered them is because they recognize that Roxborough Delaford people not stupid again. And they want to woo them back. They want to woo them back. But imagine, Mr. Watson Solomon Duke standing on the outside has been able to affect so much change on this island already. Imagine what would happen when you actually send him with Tashia Grace Boris into the parliament. Imagine what will happen then. If we are doing all of these things and we are speaking about all of these plans and we are standing on the outside looking in, imagine how well we would do when we actually go in and can institute. I keep telling people, yes, I am a good minority councillor. I am good at cussing them. Yes, I'm very good at it. But I would really prefer to spend my time doing the things that we are cussing them about instead of just cussing them. My doctoral degree should not be wasted on just cussing people who doing stupidness. Farley's degree should not be wasted on cussing people who doing stupidness. Tashia's degree should not just be wasted on cussing people who doing stupidness. Watson's degree should not just be used. And yes, the man have degree, don't worry about it. He doesn't like to talk about them thing, but you all have to recognize he's a very humble man. As much as he seems very boastful when it comes to his educational attainment. When it comes to his educational attainment, the man know thing. Don't get it twisted. Sending Tashia Grace Boris and Watson Solomon Duke to represent us in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago would mean that Tobago would finally be able to stop marching in place. And we would finally be able to start going forward. We have been marching in place for the last 20 years. And by the way, they keep telling you that PNM in Tobago and PNM in Trinidad would be good. But for the last 20 years, we've had PNM in Tobago. And 15 of those years, we had PNM in Trinidad. 15 of those 20 years, we had PNM in Tobago and PNM in Trinidad. And Tobago still stood still. We are still marching in place. August 10th is your date with Destiny Tobago. August 10th is when you need to decide for yourself. Are you happy with what is happening right now? Or are you willing to move forward? And there's one thing I really, really need to talk about this. I realize, and somebody mentioned it, fear and intimidation is crippling. I realize that a lot of people are really, really, really afraid because those people, if it's one thing that they know is how to victimize. They're good at it. It's like they read the book. Somehow Tobago moved from being a place where we have free thinkers to suddenly we have to be afraid that if we say loudly that we are PDP, it is going to be a problem. We know the people who are on the other side. We know their leaders. We know their supporters. We knew that they were red people long time. It was not a problem. It was not a problem. You supporting whichever political party you want to support is a part of your human right. So don't come and try to victimize everybody who not supporting you now. We have no problem with you supporting who you want to support. But let those of us who don't want to support you allow us that right too. Allow us that right too. And Tobago, let me let you all know, the only way those people will continue being in the holding on to power to continue to victimize you is if you do not go out and vote. Because when you look at the numbers, Tobago, when you look at the numbers, the number of people who actually vote for them is actually very low. The only reason they win is when people who are against them stay home. So if you want to keep being victimized, you want to keep being held in slavery, then you have the choice of staying home. But if you want to get rid of your oppressors, if you want to get rid of the people who tell you you're not supposed to wear that black jersey, if you want to get rid of the person who would actually say to you they saw you in a wake in a black jersey, what does that mean? Imagine you go to a wake in a black jersey and somebody calling you and telling you about that. Because you got to awaken a black jersey. Tobago, that is where we are. We're going to really allow those people to continue keeping us in slavery. It's not even colonialism. This is downright slavery. The way to get out of that is to go on August 10th. Start that way. Go on August 10th and put your X next to the bamboo bulife. Go on August 10th and put your X next to Tashia Grace Boris and Watson Solomon Duke. Because if you don't put your X next to the bamboo bulife and a few people go and put their X next to the balize, the few people could win. And we cannot allow that to happen ever again. As I've said, I contested the 2017 election for the Belgan Goodwood Electoral District, and the official results from EBC says that I lost my seat by 5 votes. Since then, I have met so many people. There was one family who told me that about 6 or 7 of them in the family did not vote for whatever reason. And just that family alone is the difference between me being area rep and me being minority councillor. When we stay home, they win. When we do not go out to vote, they win. So what we have to do is don't allow them to convince you to stay home, because that's what they've been doing. They've been telling you that these 2 Tobago seats are not worth anything, and that given Watson and Tashia, the 2 seats ain't gonna be nothing, ain't gonna do nothing. They're convincing you, they're trying to convince you that your vote is worth nothing, while they are calling all of their people, their hardcore supporters, and telling them, oh, you make sure and come out and vote, or let make sure and come out and vote. But they're telling you to stay home. Ask yourself, when you stay home, who does that benefit? When you stay home, who does that benefit? When you stay home and they win, you continue being in the level of unemployment and underemployment that you are in now. You continue under that route. That is why we are saying, the Progressive Democratic Patriots is saying that we need you, Tobago, to give us a chance. If you want to call in, you can call directly on the telephone 717-9591, 717-9591, or on WhatsApp you can either send a message or call directly on 734-6355. 734-6355. That's for WhatsApp. And regular phone 717-9591. Again, if you came to Pembroke, and again, oh my goodness, Pembroke people, I am so sorry. Next time you see me, you could cuss me stink, because I deserve it. We set all you up last night, but we set all you up for a good reason. We needed to show full support in the West. So unfortunately, we had to cancel at very late notice our meeting for Pembroke last night. But don't worry, we haven't forgotten about you. Tomorrow, that is Wednesday, tomorrow the candidate for Tobago East, Mr. Watson Solomon Duke, will be walking through with us in Pembroke. We'll be having a little meeting, just stop, pull, talk a little bit, and then we all head to Goodwood, where he moves around in Goodwood, and then we have the meeting tomorrow in Goodwood by the bar, by Cambridge Trace in Goodwood, which is where the bar is, Countryside Bar, and Miss Agnes Grocery and that kind of thing. That's where we'll be tomorrow. Hello, good morning. You are on the air. Welcome.
Yeah, hello, good morning, Dr. Faith. Hello?
Good morning.
Yeah, could you tell me the reason why the administrative people and them in Roxborough are not using the building? Do you have any idea?
Well, because it seems like it is not really finished yet, and I just got confirmation that the AC is not working. It is also leaking ridiculously, because remember, it was never officially open. I understand they even started to paint it over again because it was leaking so much then that it actually washed off plenty of the paint. So I am not sure, but it is not functioning the way it should. Do you know the answer? Do you have other reasons?
No, I just want to find out. I want to find out the same thing, why it's not opening.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's absolutely crazy, because again, they are touting that is something that they gave us. They are touting that is something they delivered. But if you deliver it and it's still ain't really officially open, then really you ain't deliver it. It's just a building and it's been there for quite a while, so it should have been delivered by now. We don't know, but again, it shows pure incompetence on their part. That's what it is.
Just like the market in Scarborough.
Exactly, because we understand the market in Scarborough is finished and we're just waiting for it. We're waiting for it to roll over. So we're waiting patiently. And Tobagonians need to remember, don't let them just come and tell you these things as if they are handed over, delivered, and everything working good. They are not.
Okay. Thank you. Enjoy your day.
Thank you very much, sir. Good morning. You are on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Dr. Faith.
Hi, good morning.
I was just listening to your very informative program. You are really on the money. But I was listening to the radio this morning and I didn't get the number for Tasha Boris. Could you let me have it if you have it there, please?
Sure, let me pull it up. She gave her cell phone number. I'm sure she gave her cell phone number because that's what we have been doing. 315 6720.
6720.
Yes, 315.
Thank you very much and continue your wonderful work, and you all will surely get somewhere.
Thank you very much.
I support you a lot.
Thank you so much. And please pray for us also. And by the way...
Yes, I'm doing that. And I just want to have a word with her to encourage her because she is fantastic.
Yes, she is. She certainly is. Thank you. And by the way, Tashia, if it's not your private number you was giving out this morning, I'm sorry. I just give it out on air. I'm very, very sorry.
It doesn't matter because what I'm going to do for her is very helpful. So she would be glad that I called.
Yes. Thank you so much. And please do call and encourage her. We definitely need that.
Okay, have a nice day.
Thank you so much. And by the way, if you need my number too, because my number is all over papers.
I'll see you tonight. I'm coming to the meeting.
Oh, good. Very good. Very, very good. Then we'll see each other tonight then.
Okay, thank you.
All right, folks. So there
Bye-bye.
it is. If you are interested in calling directly, call 717-9591, 717-9591, or if you are calling on WhatsApp, call 734-6355. 734-6355. I'm getting messages on WhatsApp. It says, how is the PNM turning Tobago into a voter bank like Laventille? Can you elaborate on that? Yes, I can elaborate on that. What we've actually seen is a situation where just before elections, the PNM has been giving out what we classify as make work. And, we use the term make work not because it is demeaning to people, because we know that people take the jobs that they can get. Jobs like CPEP, URP, and so forth, where the salary is a little bit of money. Remember, the salary is the issue. You have people who are working for a couple hours in the morning. Their salaries is very, very small, and it means that they cannot then have they cannot pay all their bills. So we have people who are underemployed is what we call it. And because they are underemployed and because the people who are their supervisors even say to them, if you vote for any other party, you will lose your work. Remember, you have people who are living with a little bit of money. These are people who don't have money. These are people who are using the little kankatang that they get to use to pay their bills. So when you then threaten them, say if you vote for anybody else, you will not get your money. That is what the voter bank thing is. And that is why we can't allow it to happen. Caller, thank you so much for holding. How are you? You are on the air.
Good morning, Dr. Speed. Thank you so much. I will also reiterate what you're saying there because I was talking to a few young fellas on the block, and a number of them told me that they were being asked if they wanted a URP job, and they were being offered jobs. Some of them already doing their own little jobs and stuff like that. They were being offered jobs, and some of them said that they weren't interested in a job, but they are going out and actually asking people if they want something to do at this very moment in time. So it's a kind of inducement, it's a kind of bribe, so that these people could go out and vote for them. So that voter bank thing that you're talking about is real. It's real, and it's going on right now as we speak. All right, thank you.
And thank you. And yes, and yes, so there are two things happening. You have them offering the jobs, and just by the way, it happens every time. Just before election, every single time, like clockwork, they start calling people to get to work in CPEP, URP, and development and that kind of thing, like clockwork. Right after election, they send home plenty of them because the system is not designed to have so many people working in these kinds of jobs. So that is part of it. And then you have the direct victimization. You have the direct threatening. I know people personally who have actually been called. Actually, yesterday, Dr. James spoke about it on the pulpit, on the platform last night, where we have people who are publicly supporting the PDP, and they have actually been called into their supervisor's office and threatened. And when it happened, we have actually been saying, hey, we are standing with you. So we had a situation where somebody was called in, and instead of her going by herself to the supervisor's office, we sent people with her so that they know, hey, you cannot do that to our people. You cannot keep threatening people. The same way you have a democratic right to vote for whoever you want to, other people have democratic rights to vote for whoever they want to. I know for a fact that there were situations where supervisors on gangs and so forth used to bring the red jersey to people on CPEP and tell them when they have PNM rallies and whatnot that they have to put on the jersey and they have to come to the rally or they're not getting paid. I know that for a fact that has happened. For a fact that has happened. So that is what we're talking about. You are threatening people because remember, we have a situation where we do not have a thriving private sector. So most people will not be able to just get up, leave the government work and go out and get a job that pays a lot of money in the private sector. They have practically killed the private sector. And because of that, when people are afraid to speak up and people are afraid to show their true colors, because if they lose the little, even though what they have is a little bit of money and so forth, it's stopping a hole. It's not fulfilling all of their needs, but it is stopping a hole. So they keep threatening you, saying, if you vote for this gonna happen or that gonna happen. One of the things that Mr. Watson Duke has actually been speaking about, and one of the things, him coming from a very strong trade union background, where we have recognized that instead of paying people, you all know that there are people who go home with $2,000, $3,000 a month after working $2,000, $3,000 a month. What are you going to do with that? You cannot pay all of your bills with that. So one of the things he has actually spoken about multiple times, using his coming with that trade union background, is that at least for Tobago, because even if they don't want to do it in Trinidad, we will do it for Tobago, that the absolute minimum amount of money that you should be going home with every month in Tobago is at least $5,000. Every month you should be going home with at least $5,000. Because that is what would get you to the baseline of having a decent amount of money every month to pay your bills. And that is something that we can negotiate for. That is something that we can negotiate for, having that $5,000 a month, so that when you come home, when you go home at the end of the month, you say, well, yeah, that $5,000 is your baseline and you're going up from there. There are so many people right now, and that's why I keep saying, even though Trinidad and Tobago continues to boast about having low unemployment rate, we may have low unemployment rate, but we have high underemployment rate, because even though technically you are employed, what you are employed with and the money you make every month being employed cannot pay all of your bills. And if you cannot pay all of your bills and you now have to go looking for a second or third job, it means you are underemployed. And if you are underemployed, it means that the employment you have is not enough to sustain you. So we are talking about unemployment rates being low, which is fine, but a lot of people still have to go and look for another work because the monies that they are making every month is simply not enough to sustain them. And we cannot continue like that. We need to have people who, when you do one work, when you do one job, and you do it good, you should be able to live with that. And if you want to go out and do more, then you could because you wish. But it shouldn't be because your children hungry that you have to go out and do another job. No, we are not supposed to be going through that road. So again, we are going to be, yes, before I forget, we are going to be this evening in Bethel, Egypt Junction, and I'm seeing the skies clearing up a little. Well, at least it's not raining where I am. I'm hoping that means it's clearing up a whole lot. So by this evening, we will be out in Bethel with the Tobago East and West candidates this evening in Bethel, and we would have our final meeting at about 7:30 or so at Egypt Junction. So we'll be spending time maneuvering, going through that Bethel area, going through probably oh gosh, well, I don't really know Tobago West, forgive me. Let me leave that up to those who know what they're talking about. So we will be going through Bethel this evening and ending at Egypt Junction with our meeting in Bethel this evening. Again, for those who came out yesterday to Pembroke yesterday evening, I humbly apologize. Humbly apologize, but we made a decision internally that we needed to show full support to the Tobago West candidate yesterday evening. And because we need to show full support to the Tobago West candidate, we decided to cancel the meeting in Pembroke yesterday. But don't worry, you are not forgotten. We are going to be in Pembroke tomorrow, and then we're going to end with the meeting in Goodwood tomorrow. And then next week, I think the 7th, we will be in Bell Garden. We will be in Bell Garden next week having a grand old time. So if you do not see us, we would be in Glamorgan, Richmond, Bell Garden next week, and then ending our meeting close to that field in Bell Garden, Wrong Bay Road. Yeah, that's where we'll be. So you have enough space. You have enough space to park, stay in your car, stay close to the car, and still hear the message without getting too close. Because remember, we are still getting cases of COVID as we go along in Trinidad. Thank God we have not heard anything about any cases in Tobago. But we are still trying to maintain this social distancing. That is why the Progressive Democratic Patriots has been having our drive-in meetings. We're having meetings where we are actually driving to the location, and if you recognize when you see our video and footage and stuff like that, you're not seeing a lot of people in front of the stage or anything like that, because the people who are there are actually in and around their vehicles. They're in and around their vehicles, so we are not congregating in any one particular location. Well, except one little time on Sunday evening, and let me explain what happened Sunday evening if you saw that video. At the end of our meeting, we were packing up in Delaford, and then the red people and them came down from Charlottesville. And then they stop in the road with their loud music and things. So our people go out and let them know, hey, all you can't believe it's plenty away here. We may not look like plenty because all our way wrong with car, but when we came closer to the road, I think they finally recognized that it was a total blackout in Delaford that evening. So when you see that video, it's not because that is how we've been for the entire evening. It was just at that moment, in the exuberance, that people came out of their cars, came away from their vehicles, and lined the street so that they could see. All your move, Satan, move, let me pass. Because it is a total blackout. And talking about blackout, I want you all to listen to this song. Listen to this song by Gideon. I love this song. It's based on an African beat. The name of the song is Jerusalem officially, but our local person Gideon actually did such an amazing job with this song, Total Blackout.
Black is beautiful. Yes, we black and total black. Black is beautiful. We got black into colors built to we voting for PDP. for PDP. Black and we broke. We voting for PDP. This is a black hole. We voting for PDP. Collaboration. PDP. Black and pro. No weapon form against you. So higher than an eagle. 10,000 falling at your left, 10,000 at your right. Victory today. No weapon form against you. Jah protect our heroes. Look, haters falling on your left and haters on your right. Victory today. This is a black hole. We black and we brown.
So yes, it is a total blackout, and I love the words because we know that no weapon formed against us will prosper. No weapon formed against us will prosper because we know who we are. We know whose we are. We know why we are here doing this. And I always say, the Most High knows the heart of men. The Most High knows that we are genuine. The Most High knows that the people who are part of the Progressive Democratic Patriots is not doing this because we are going to benefit personally from it. That is not the case. Mr. Watson Solomon Duke does not need to do this. Mr. Farley Chavez Augustine does not need to do this. Ms. Tashia Grace Burris does not need to do this. Dr. Faith B. Israel does not need to do this. We have chosen to stand in the front of this army because we recognize that Tobago has been going down a road and we need to turn it around. We need to have people in the front who are willing to say, hey, you have done enough. You have done enough. Stop, please. Thanks for what you have done thus far. Thank you so much, but no further. We will now take control of this because we gave you 20 full years. We gave you 20 full years. We gave you chance after chance after chance after chance after chance, and you have shown us what you are willing to do for the 20 years that we gave you. Enough is enough. Tobago deserves better. Tobago deserves performance. And that is why we are asking you, Tobago people, Tobago East and Tobago West, please, 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 on August 10th, you have one choice. This is a marathon. This is a relay that we are running. We started in 2015 with Mr. Duke going as an independent. We passed the baton again in 2017, where we contested as the Progressive Democratic Patriots, and we were able to win 2 seats in the THA and came dangerously close to a third. And we are now at another leg of the relay. That other leg is August 10th. That other leg is when we want to hand the baton over to Tashia Grace Burris. We want to hand the baton over to Watson Solomon Duke and tell them, oh, look, go down to Trinidad and run in that parliament. Go down to Trinidad and run. We need the 10% of the budget at least. And I'm going to spend a day talking about how much we really should be getting it, because what we really should be getting is about 30% of the developmental budget based on the amount of resources that is in Tobago water. But we ain't going to go down that road today. So we're being reasonable. We're talking about at least 10% of the budget. We need you to amend the THA Act to give us at least 10% of the budget, allow us to be able to make the laws that we need to make here, allow us to be able to go to the open bank and borrow if we need to without having to come to ask you permission. Those things. Those are some of the things that we are speaking about. So we're asking you on the 10th of August, another leg of the relay. PDP. Watson Solomon Duke, Tobago East. Tashia Grace Burris, Tobago West. And Tobago West, I want you all to really understand that you all have not been dealt nicely at all over the last couple of years. I know that we think that the culture of Tobago East and Tobago West is a little different, and that's fine. But you really need to look at all of the businesses that in Tobago West has closed down because of all of those things. You need to look at, because of the air bridge and sea bridge practically crashing, and that even though you may think that Mr. Duke may be a little rough around the edges for you, think about the fact that this man who may be a little rough around the edges for you was actually the man who jumped into that water to do the protest swim, so that Trinidad and Tobago would finally see that this is so important to us, that we are dying and we are willing to jump into shark-infested water to swim to Toco to show that we needed this. Tobago West, we need you to send Tashia Grace Burris, the lioness, down to Trinidad to work with Mr. Watson Solomon Duke. Don't let them come to you with those people and that. You have suffered too. Those of you who are being hounded out of your land to have the airport, that we're not even sure why they need the 80 or the 50 acres of land to build the airport. You have to never forget. Don't allow them to tell you that giving that seat to Tashia Grace Burris is going to be a bad thing. Don't allow them. Tashia Grace Burris is going to be the one who stands for you, because the ones who are there, they've been there for the last 5 years. They've been there for the last 5 years, and you look at it carefully. Yesterday I actually met somebody and I was asking them, please tell us, please tell me, what has the two who are there now, what have they done for Tobago? And the person kept talking about the fire station and the police station, and I was like, tell me, that has been on the books for 15 years, 10 years now. That has been on the book for 15, 10 years now. That is not their plan. They know what they went to do. They just happened to be there at the time that it was finally done. And we already know that it was finally done just because Watson up there right now. So tell me, what have they done? What have they spoken up on behalf of you? All of the businesses done on Tobago West. You tell me, what have they done on your behalf? How have they made your life better? And the reality is they haven't. They haven't. So what you're sending them back there to do? Another message on WhatsApp. Good morning, Dr. Faith. I saw a very antagonistic comment by MP Ms. Shamfokojo, whereby she insinuated that the president of the Tobago Hotel and Tourism Association, Mr. Chris James, was a Tobagonian by both. Well, I never. Thus, should not be voicing his concern about commerce as it pertains to Tobago. I am hopeful that a PDP MP and a PDP administration will be all-inclusive and willing and ready to embrace comments, ideas from not only various institutions on the island, but also from the average citizen. I strongly believe that we need all hands on deck as it pertains to Tobago's development, and we do. We are calling all Tobagonians. We are calling all Tobagonians, everybody. And as a matter of fact, one of the things that we've been using is the term the nation of Tobago, meaning anybody who loves this island and wants to work on behalf of this island, we are welcoming you. My comment is based on the backdrop of the IMF, of the recent IMF International Monetary Fund report that the T&T economy grew by 0.3% in 2018 and 0% in 2019, which is in direct contrast to the respective 2.2% and 2% growth, which was so gleefully reported in Parliament by the Minister of Finance. And that's another thing. This Minister of Finance in Trinidad has been straight up, it's like, I don't know where he does getting numbers from. And by the way, the Secretary of Finance in Tobago does come with some numbers, so we'll just be wondering what all you're talking about, because the official reports from CSO, the official reports from IMF says something completely different. Another comment. Dr. Faith, in its election season in the U.S., let me say this: Joe Biden's candidacy seems lifeless until Jim Clyburn, Democratic rep of South Carolina, gave an impassioned speech. He resurrected Biden's campaign. I think Dr. Vanas James is that man of the hour to Tobagonians. If Tobagonians squander this opportunity, Lord help us. We abroad are willing to join the cause to build a better Tobago for our future generations. Tobagonians, I have been listening. Our visionaries are with the PDP. I am counting on you to send Mr. Duke and Miss Burris to lead the charge in the fight for all of us. I believe in you. And that, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And that's another thing that we have to talk about, because when we, as the Progressive Democratic Patriots, talk about Tobago and Tobagoanians, we are not just talking about the 60,000 of us who are on the island. We are talking about those of us who are outside of Tobago, those of us who are leading many industries in Trinidad, who are leading their fields in outside world. There are Tobagoanians who are competent, and that is why yesterday, when the person who I was talking to gave the impressions that Tobagoanians can't think for themselves and can't say about themselves, and that we ain't ready for the level of independence. I looked at the person and I was almost disgusted. I was like, really? Are you really telling me? Are you really telling me that you don't believe Tobagoanians can do this? When we are the ones who've been heading the public service in Trinidad, we are the ones who've been heading the judiciary in Trinidad, we've been ones who've been heading all kind of story in Trinidad. When you look at some of the top PSs and so forth in Trinidad, they are Tobagoanians. What you mean we can't do this? I don't understand all you with that. And I am very offended by anybody who tells me that Tobago ain't ready. What you mean we ain't ready? What do you mean we ain't ready? You really honestly feel that we're stupid and we can't do nothing for ourselves? Honestly? No, I don't believe that. And anybody who tells me that, I am letting you know I am offended. As a Tobagonian, I am offended. Don't let me go down that road at all. If that is a story you're coming with, keep your Nancy story to yourself. I firmly believe that Tobagonians have the capacity to do everything. Everything a Trinidadian can do, everything a Jamaican can do, everything a Bayesian can do, everything an American can do, a Tobagonian can do it. And anybody who tell you that we ain't ready for that are the ones who are telling you to keep yourself in slavery. They are the ones who are telling you that you need to stay under the knees of this PNM. And you have to ask them, why are they telling you to stay in slavery? Why are they telling you to keep yourself in bondage? Why are they telling you that you do not deserve better? Because when they tell you to vote for two people who have been there for the last 5 years and have said nothing on behalf of Tobago, or at least nothing of worth, nothing of substance, nothing that has actually positively impacted our lives in any real meaningful way, then they are telling you you need to stay where you are at what is the normal for you. Because the normal for them is quite comfortable. As I've said many times, their bread already butter. So as I wrap up today, again, I want to remind us that we are in Bethel this evening. Egypt Junction, about 7:30 is when we will finally get there. Egypt Junction, about 7:30 is when we'll finally get there after we maneuver through Bethel and environs this evening. So we will have our meeting. You can come and meet your Tobago East and Tobago West candidates at Egypt Junction this evening in Bethel. That is where we will be today. And tomorrow we are going to be in Goodwood. So those who were in Pembroke last night, oh gosh, Olio, I again apologize. We'll be in Goodwood tomorrow. We're coming through Pembroke and ending in Goodwood tomorrow. And I want to remind each and every one of you, on August 10th, to get up very, very early. Go to bed the night before early. Get a good night's rest. Get a real good night's rest. Get a real good night's rest. Don't go on no motorcade. Don't go on nothing like that. Get a good night's rest. Get up very early, pray, meditate, do whatever you need to do to put your mind straight. Put on a decent jersey. You can't put on no political jersey. Put on a decent jersey, a decent pants, a decent skirt, go down the road. Be consecutive number 1, consecutive voter number 2, consecutive voter number 3, consecutive voter number 4. Get there early. Get there before 6. Get there before 6 so that when you are done, you are going to go and help pull out every other person who said they're not sure if they're voting. Bring them out, because the Progressive Democratic Patriots needs every single vote. The Progressive Democratic Patriots needs every single person to come and give us your X. On August 10th, vote for Tashia Grace Boris. Vote for Watson Solomon Duke, the Bamboo Bodife, because that is what Tobago needs. That is what Tobago requires. That is what will take Tobago out of the state of stagnation where we are right now. And we're asking you again, please give us that chance. Allow us to pass to another leg of the baton of rescuing Tobago. Allow us to do our work so that we can help you do your work. Listeners, viewers, thank you so much for indulging with me today. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for those who have called in and for those who have messaged. Thank you so very much. Thanks to those who are on the Facebook Live. Thanks to those who are viewing the YouTube channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is Dr. Faith B. Israel, Deputy Political Leader of the Progressive Democratic Patriots, and God's willing, you would see me in Bethel later, and you would then hear me on the radio tomorrow morning again from 10. If you want to hear more from Tashia Grace Burris, listen to the radio from 7 a.m. Listen to the radio from 7 a.m. She's on from 7 a.m. tomorrow. Again, thank you so much. God's blessings. And yes, the PDP, we are black and we are proud.
This is a black hole. PDP, black and proud. No weapon from against you. So higher than an eagle. 10,000 falling at your left, 10,000 at your right. Victory today. No weapon from against you. Jah protect our heroes. Look, haters falling on your left and haters on your right. Victory today. This is a black hole. PDP. We black and we proud. Voting for PDP, vote on PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. No, this is a black hole. PDP. We black and we proud. Voting for PDP, vote on PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. Black and proud the guy. Love with Tobago pride. Watson Duke and Tashia Boris don't ever give up this fight. With the few shit I galvanize, you bring tears up our people's eyes. Vote out Shamsa, vote out Iron, vote out the PNM blind. We proud. PDP, this is a black hole. We voting for PDP, vote out PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. No, no weapon from against you. Just set you higher than them. 10,000 falling at your left, 10,000 at your right. Victory today. No weapon from against you. Just set you higher than the eagle. Haters scatter on your left, some scatter on your right. Victory today. This is a black when we touch the road. Him with PDP t-shirt, black. Voting for Tashia Boris, voting for what's in the oak. Black like charcoal, black bamboo bully face smoke. Is this kaleidoscope? Tell them black is the code. We pro PDP. This is a black hole. We voting for PDP, vote out PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. No, this is a black hole. And we proud. We're voting for PDP, vote out PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. No. PDP, total black. PDP, Charlottesville to PDP, black is beautiful. PDP.
Welcome to Info Update for July 28th, 2020. In the headlines, the number of local cases rises again. Health Minister calls for trust in beating COVID-19, and illegal immigrants put population at risk.
Info Update. Informative,
insightful,
unfiltered.
The issues,
topics and conversations that affect you. This is the THA's Daily Info Update.
Are you a young leader with a passion for Tobago? Are you ready to contribute to youth development on the island? Well, if you're between ages 15 to 24, sign up for the Tobago Youth Assembly. You can register online at www.thasportandyouth.com or call 612-3792 extension 1036. That's 612-3792 extension 1036. Registration deadline is July 31st. The Tobago Youth Assembly. Youth in Governance, an initiative of the Division of Sport and Youth Affairs and the Assembly Legislature in collaboration with the Tobago Youth Council.
And now for the details. We begin with an update from the Ministry of Health virtual press conference on Monday 27th July 2020.
Trinidad and Tobago has recorded 5 more positive cases of COVID-19 overnight, bringing the total number of positive COVID-19 cases in the country to 153. A release from the Ministry of Health today states that 3 of the cases are imported, 1 is a primary contact of a recent local COVID-19 case, and the other is pending epidemiological investigation. The imported cases represent nationals who have recently returned from Antigua, Guyana, and Vietnam. This adds to the tally of 9 recently confirmed local cases. 2 of the cases are connected to SEA students, and this has caused the closure of 2 schools in Trinidad. In light of the reopening of schools in September, Minister of Health Terence Dial Singh said the ball is now in the court of the Ministry of Education.
The CMO would have sent to the Ministry of Education his recommendations, and the Ministry of Education is to look at it, have discussions with their stakeholders, and get back to us for that reopening in September. So that is what we have done so far, and the implementation will be the responsibility of the Ministry of Education to drive it down through the system.
Citizens are reminded to wear face masks in public, remain at home if feeling unwell, and to keep sick children at home. I'm Patricia Nicholson for Info Update.
We continue along with health, as Minister of Health Terence Dial Singh said the cure for COVID-19 outside of a vaccine is trust. Megan Wallace brings us more.
Minister Dial Singh is calling on residents to trust the institutions that are actively operating in order to safeguard the country from a disastrous spread of COVID-19.
We have to continue to trust and show solidarity with the institutions that are leading this fight: the Ministry of Health, Ministry of National Security, the TTPS, the Defense Force, all the institutions that are working together to protect you.
He said we must also have trust in each other as a collective society.
Each member of society, whether you are a leader of a place of religion, a business leader, even leadership at the household level, we are going to have to be our own saviors.
The Ministry of Health